Hi everybody and welcome back. Okay guys and girls, I had a pre-planned list of things I wanted to talk to you about this week, but at the same time we have to keep up with the news and therefore all planned videos need to take a back seat for a moment. And thus today I want to talk to you about the news that the Queen expressed her wish for Camilla to be titled Queen Consort when Charles becomes king. Now, before I even start this narrative, I want to beg those listening to listen properly and carefully and to please not attribute things to me that I have not said or, for that matter, written. I do not know whether it is a targeted trolling attempt or whether there is something in the air, but lately I have received many rude and nasty comments and email, far more than usual, and mostly lashing out at me for things I have not said. So if you start listening to this video, please do me the courtesy to stay to the end because each story has two sides and I shall attempt to present both sides and then at the end obviously give you my opinion because after all it is my channel. So before you criticize, please at least wait for my opinion. Okay, when the news became public that the Queen expressed her wish for Camilla to be titled Queen Consort, I posted a headline and asked how you, my viewers, felt about it. I did not give my opinion in the post, and I'll tell you why later. Anyway, most of the 333 subscribers who left a comment were in favor of Camilla being titled Queen Consort instead of Princess Consort when Charles becomes king. The reasons given by those in favor are obviously varied, but the majority of those feel that she had earned it by keeping her head down and doing her job well, serving her country, the monarchy, and her patronage as well, and to the best of her ability. Some others felt that Camilla had served her time and made up for her and Charles's affair, and that everyone should move on from it. Others felt that if it was the Queen's wish, then it should be so. Like I said, there were a variety of comments and opinions, and for those of you who have not seen it, please go to my community section where you can read it for yourself. Whatever reasons were given, it is fact that most were in favor. Interesting and worth mentioning is that there were a few who said that they will prefer William and Catherine becoming king and queen consort after the queen's passing. But if Charles is to become king, Camilla can just as well be titled queen consort. It is not making much of a difference, and Charles would do what he wants to anyway. It is basically common knowledge that he wanted Camilla to be titled Queen Consort all along. So yes, my dears, even those in the same camp have different opinions and reasons, and all valid and heartfelt and honest. But if you want to dissect it, I suggest you go scroll through these comments yourself. There were far too many for me to highlight them individually. However, as expected, there were also those of you who are not happy with the idea of Queen Camilla, and those people gave equally valid, and I'm proud to say, very respectful, clear reasons. No bitterness or sarcasm, but a decent factual debate. And I thank you for that. Okay, so now let's get into the reasons given for why these people are not exactly thrilled with the idea of a Queen Camilla. But before you bite my head off and leave dozens of comments correcting me, Camilla will be styled Queen Consort. But at official functions, she will be addressed as Queen Camilla. In formal documents, she will be referred to, however, by her official styling and title, namely as Queen Consort. Now, having said that, let's get back to where we were and move on. One of the main objections against Camilla becoming Queen Consort concerns the Church of England and the fact that Charles will become the head of the Church of England when he becomes king. Now, let's for a moment look at church policy in 1936 compared to now. In 1936, when Edward VIII proposed marriage to Wallis Simpson, the marriage was opposed by the governments of the UK, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and South Africa on the grounds of social, moral, religious, and legal matters. And indeed, in 1936, the Church of England did not allow divorced people to remarry in church if their spouses were still alive, and the monarch was required by law to be in communion with the Church of England as its head or supreme governor. In 2002, however, in a vote concerning marriage after divorce, the outcome was 269 votes to 83 in support of change. It was also pertinent as under civil law, clergy have the capacity to marry any two people as long as they are legally free to marry. The church thus decided to allow remarriage among divorced couples regardless of whether their ex-spouses were dead or alive, but under certain conditions, namely, do they understand that divorce is a breach of God's will? Do they have a determination for the new marriage to be a lifelong faithful partnership? Are they willing to explore and grow in the Christian faith? Has enough time passed since the divorce for everyone to have recovered? Has either party been divorced more than once? And finally, was their relationship a direct cause of the breakdown of a previous marriage? The last question became the deciding factor when Charles and Camilla wanted to marry in 2005. The church decided that their adultery contributed to the failure of Camilla's marriage, or at least that was the official outcome or response or conclusion. And therefore, they had to marry in a civil ceremony, although the church allowed their marriage to be blessed in church after the civil ceremony. However, I do need to point out that in terms of the monarch and the exceptions made for a monarch or for first in line to the throne, this was not considered a church marriage, only a blessing from the church. Another issue is Catholicism. Although it is said that Camilla remained Anglican her whole life and did not convert to Catholicism, it is fact that she married Andrew Parker Bowles in a Catholic ceremony and that both their children were raised Catholic. It is thus clear why some doubt this and is of the opinion that Camilla converted back to the Anglican faith in order to marry Charles. So take these two factors into consideration, and it is understandable that those who live by the letter of the faith both object to Charles becoming king and or Charles becoming the head of the Church of England, and therefore, in effect, object to Camilla being titled Queen Consort. There are also those who still, and with a degree of correctness, feel that Charles and Camilla are wholly responsible for Charles and Diana's divorce, and as effect of that, ultimately her death. Those feel that Camilla not only won by ending up with Diana's husband, sometimes wearing jewelry she wore, but now also taking her place as Queen Consort, eradicating her memory now completely. And lastly, a number of people referred to the trust issue created by this announcement. In numerous articles and interviews with friends of Charles and Camilla, and even her children, it was clearly stated that Camilla was content with the fact that she will not be titled Queen Consort, but instead Princess Consort, a lower rank. Although it is common knowledge that it had always been Charles's wish to make Camilla Queen Consort, it was widely accepted that even he would accept the title of Princess Consort to prevent any division or polarization among the subjects of the British monarchy. It was even announced at the time of their marriage that Camilla will be titled Princess Consort when Charles became king, as at the time it was accepted that crowning Camilla queen will create PR problems for the royals. What has happened since, no one knows, but the last time the matter was openly discussed in March 2020, it was in fact reiterated that nothing has changed in this regard. People thus feel as if one thing is said to appease the masses and another is done, and that promises are not being kept. So the objection in this regard is indeed a very valid one, and one cannot blame those who now ask who changed the rules, including the 2005 ruling of the Church, and why and when was it changed? It was also pointed out that in Edward and Wallace's case, at least 5 prime ministers of 5 countries in which the monarch was still head of state were consulted before a decision was made. In the case of Edward and Wallace, the majority of the prime ministers of Australia, Canada, New Zealand, South Africa, and Northern Ireland, or the Irish Free State at the time, opposed the marriage of Edward and Wallace. According to a few subscribers, and in their opinion, this announcement by the Queen expressing her wish for Camilla to be titled Queen Consort came without consulting anybody, most likely not even the British Prime Minister. Some people also feel that it was a rather sneaky move to do this on the very day we celebrate Her Majesty being on the throne for 70 years, a day on which no one wishes to upset the Queen. Then, lastly, there are the small but third group who do not care about Camilla's title, but who do not want Charles as king at all, and those who do not give a hoot, and who are just following royal news for the salacious gossip. Okay, so this is the basic feeling among subscribers on YouTube and Instagram. And again, for those of you who are really keen to see exactly what is being said, you are absolutely welcome to read the comments on my community page and on a number of Instagram pages. But now, my dear friends, listen up. Here are my feelings and opinion on the matter, and please do not confuse my opinion with that of anyone else, whether for or against Camilla. This is my sole opinion. I fall mostly in the category of those who do not mind or care what title Camilla receives. Firstly, Camilla does not bother me. Charles and Camilla's affair may have been very nasty in the way it was conducted and played out, but in my opinion, Charles and Diana were a complete mismatch, and the marriage would have failed anyway. If not Camilla, then there would have been someone else, in my opinion. Secondly, I believe that only God can judge them for how they conduct their private lives, their morals, etc. As a member of the public, I am entitled to criticize their work and their actions surrounding decisions made in their role as working royals. That it is 100% okay for me to criticize a royal for his relationship with a pedophile or a deviant of sorts. It is 100% okay for me to speak out about political interference or cash or honors issues, but It is absolutely none of my business who Charles loves or who he chooses to live with. I have found that it is better for my mental health and nerves to separate the monarchy from the royal family. And in my book, this applies to Charles and Camilla, Harry and Meghan. For example, Charles can welcome Harry back into his family and love him as a son. That is none of my business. But if he should dare to put him and his wife on display and rub them in our faces, I shall indeed be very angry. Now, as far as Camilla is concerned, I had someone say in the comments that I am whining and moaning about Camilla, but I'm sorry, that is not true. In the nearly 2 years of making these videos, I have never whined or complained, or even for that matter discussed Camilla at length. At most, I mentioned her in passing when talking about other royals. As far as I'm concerned, Camilla is the best thing that could have happened to Charles, as I think she is a lot more sensible than him. I also think she is likely the only person besides perhaps the Queen whom Charles pays any attention to and is likely to listen to or take advice from. And she is definitely the only person who can handle him long term. Regardless of how I felt about the affair and the way it was handled at the time, I respect Camilla for keeping her head down and getting on with the job. I also think she was very clever to get into it gradually and not to push to the foreground straight away, thus giving herself and the public time to adjust. As an older woman myself, I admire Camilla's style, and there are a couple of outfits in her cupboard she can gladly pass on to me. I am, however, concerned once again existing rules and laws are being ignored, and this does not bode well for Charles's reign or the future of the monarchy. I am thus far more concerned about Charles becoming king than I am about Camilla's title. I am far more concerned about Charles's part in the global reset than I am about Camilla's potential title. I'm also far more concerned about Charles's growing offshore portfolio than I am about any title which may be bestowed on Camilla. It is also clear that Charles will do what he wants when he becomes king. So arguing about Camilla's title will just be wasting our precious breath. I do, however, respect and agree with both sides, those for Camilla becoming Queen Consort and those against, as both sides make very, very valid arguments. But I fear that once again, this whole debacle may just be yet another diversion from things which should really concern us right now. Besides, the Queen is still very much alive and repeated her promise to serve for the rest of her natural life. So at this point, nothing is for certain. The Queen may even outlive her son, in which case there will be no argument about titles. So, my suggestion is that we let go of this for now and rather focus on other things and decisions which may influence our lives in the future. When the time comes for this to materialize, we can then revisit the laws and constitution of the United Kingdom and the church rules, and at which time I would suggest we correspond our findings and feelings to the prime ministers of our respective countries, particularly in Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, which are currently still crown countries, meaning that the Queen is still head of state. For now, like I said, let us focus on what is being done right under our noses right now, and that we'll talk about in another video. So, my dear friends, until we meet again on the next video, please take good care of yourselves. Bye.